Okay, right, so we're doing, that's fine. Right, he's just sent the agenda out. Hi, Valerie, how are you?
Hi, Susan. Good. Hi, everybody.
You look like
Hi.
you're in a beautiful, beautiful hill in the Golan somewhere.
It's the Jerusalem Hills, actually.
Mm,
No,
stunning. I know you're not there, but
no. But it's when I lead the courses, so I just leave it on because
yeah,
it's so nice.
it's gorgeous. It's relaxing and everything. Beautiful.
Yes,
Great.
good.
Okay. So, Dr.
And
Golvas,
Dr. Gall.
why is there feedback? Dr. Golvas is coming in any second, I think.
He's here.
Can you see me?
Can't
Yes.
Can you
hear you. Oh, I can.
Tommy, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
All right, let's wait a few minutes and we'll get started.
Since you asked about the for people to print out the revised protocol, could you tell us what the subject line of that email is?
I posted it on the chat.
Oh, okay.
You can just look at it.
Thanks.
So I'm going to give you guys a heads up. We're going to have to dive in. I'm at a hotel
You're gonna have to happen.
area and I plugged in my phone and it went boop and the adapter or the charger is not working. I have probably 20%.
Oh no.
So we have to dive in hard that this is going to be okay.
I've never heard that. I've never heard that in a training session in my life, that we have to dive hard for the session to be able to take place because I've only got 20 minutes. Yeah.
We'll have an extra one in Yerushalayim, but by the time I go there and come back, you'll all be sleeping. I should next time I'll bring a spare. You know what? Let me see if I can get the hotel. Hold on one second, please.
Hotel might have one. It's a good idea. Has everybody seen the flyers that's in Israel for the conference that we're doing? Yeah.
That's a conference for which there's no Zoom. Is that
Well,
correct?
we're working on that. They may very well be. We'll know by the end of today if we can do Zoom or tomorrow. So there may very well be a Zoom option. I'll let you know if there is straight away. Okay.
We're working on it. Okay, let's get started. We've got a nice group of people here.
Rafi said he had to take one of his children to the doctor's urgently.
Okay, so let's get started. So basically, let me just tell you that these are the changes that were made as a result of the last two trainings, feedback. There is more that I'm going to be adding when we do the training in a few weeks. And I hope that you all will consider either doing the training again or coming to the third day where we're going to be doing just practice. We're going to be doing threesomes, the patient, therapist, and an observer. I met with someone from EMDR Israel who kind of gave me 10%, who gave me a critique, and I took it on board. Felt that the training, that the practice needs to be more. He's probably right, and from the feedback I gotten from some of you, that the confidence isn't what it should be.
Can I just interrupt you? If you turn your video off, your battery will last longer.
There you go.
Okay, see how that's
Good idea, mate.
Can you use your phone?
He is on his phone.
Never mind. Okay.
I'm gonna probably go down while we're talking. I'm gonna go down to the lobby and see if they have one. Anyway, let's get started. So the first thing, if you just scroll down, what's new is in blue. Hopefully that came out. No. All right, so I'm going to just go from. Okay, so most of the changes is actually in the actual protocol, but if you scroll down at 12:15, what is this EMDR? And important things to consider. We spoke about this, but I really need to emphasize this, and that's the cognitive interweave. Please mute. So again, the cognitive interweave is when you introduce a cognitive reframe or perhaps a gentle challenge to something that is presented that feels dysfunctional or maladaptive. And this is your chance when you have if you have some cognitive therapy skills, to be able to introduce something that you think will be helpful. Anyone can present an example of that?
Depending on the issue, but for example, if one of the things that comes up is that they feel like they have no control. So one of the positive interview could be like, I have control when, and then insert whatever the situation so that she feels like in certain areas she has control.
Yeah, or maybe you can ask in what ways do you have control, right? It's like a Socratic question.
Yeah.
Anyone have?
I mean, your cognitive interweave that you taught us about, like, you know, ask a friend. Like, what would you do with a friend in this situation? What would you say to them? That would be considered a cognitive interweave.
Okay, good news. I have a charger.
Oh, gosh, Jen.
Somebody davened really hard. Okay. So that is number one. And just any other questions or comments about the interweave?
I mean, when you say, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. When you mention about asking the person, what would you say to a friend in this situation?
Yes.
That would be called the cognitive interweave.
That's cognitive interweave. That's a perfect example of it. Another example would be if they're stuck, let's say, in terms of coming up with a positive cognition. A cognitive interweave would say something along the lines of, if you could try to be, if you could let go of whatever negative association you have, whatever, and you tried to be positive, what would be a way to reframe that? Something along those lines. In other words, the real issue about cognitive interweave is you don't, and by the way, this was not something that was originally in the protocol. It's something that was added as Francine realized that there has to be some organicity here, that there has to be some way of introducing your own clinical contribution. And you don't have to be so rigid in adhering to the protocol. There are ways that you can introduce these cognitive interweaves that that could be helpful. Okay, next. So if you scroll down to just the next section, inclusion restrictions. What types of persons should be carefully considered for EMDR? And by the way, let me go back to what types of person would not be appropriate for EMDR. So interesting enough, I told you I went to this training last week, and the person who gave the training disagreed with this exclusion of bipolar and borderline. Schizophrenia, yes. But she feels that, and I'm not saying that you should consider it yet, but she said that there are ways to be able to deal with people who are emotionally dysregulated, A, and B, because of the desensitization paradigm and the chemicals, the enzyme that actually disconnects the the limbic system, as we discussed many times, from the trauma, there's no reason why you can't use bilateral stimulation to help desensitize their highly charged limbic system, even if they're diagnosed with bipolar or borderline. And she's right. My experience is dealing with borderlines is when they get on that TheraTapper, within a minute or so, they're more regulated. They're not as dysregulated for sure. Even if they can't get into their left brain necessarily, but they can get calmer. Tova, you've had experience with borderlines with this, right?
Yeah.
And
So this, I just saw her today. I mean, you seem to think she's borderline. I'm not sure, but it really it took a long time for her to be able to get into her left brain at all and to have any cognitive understanding about anything about her issue. And I've been giving her a lot of cognitive interweaves, actually. We actually spoke about enmeshment last week. I, for the first time, mentioned that word to her, that there is such a thing and that it's not healthy, and that even if she would have had a daughter instead of a son, it would have still been called enmeshment for her to have that type of relationship with her, and that only belongs between a husband and wife. And I've been like really psychoeducating her about these things. And she came back, this was last week. This week she came back with like glimmers of understanding, where she felt like I'm gonna get like I must really have, my brain must be in gear somewhere here because I hear it.
so I'm saying that even with people with borderline personality disorder and the woman you described who is having abandonment issues from her son getting married,
Right.
being able to desensitize the highly charged limbic system, but also trying to work on some of those borderline dynamics like abandonment, black and white thinking,
That's right.
devaluing, those borderline traits. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know about that. And the next thing, what types of persons should be carefully considered for? So at the last training, we had a woman who volunteered to do a trauma, as you all have seen in other trainings. And she chose a trauma that is chronic and ongoing. It wasn't an acute trauma. It wasn't something that happened. It wasn't a ma'aseh shahaya. It was something that was very acute, and it was chronic, but still acute in her nervous system because there was no resolution. And the EMDR was challenging for her because the goal with EMDR is to be able to try to desensitize and help them reprocess of trauma that happened, that affected them, that damaged them, and created these narratives, these schemas, and then put it to bed. But if something's going on an ongoing trauma, you have to be very careful, in terms of expectations, but also it's important to let them know that EMDR is best, it produces the best results for things that have happened, or maybe even things in the future, which we'll talk about in terms of prospective EMDR. But things that are ongoing that aren't going away, EMDR is not a panacea. It's not a magic pill. It's not going to solve ongoing trauma. So, lesson learned, and when you're dealing with someone who's experiencing an ongoing chronic trauma, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't try EMDR to desensitize the emotions, and it doesn't mean that you can't help them reprocess it. But you have to let them know that they have to modify their expectations, that they can put it into a box and wrap it around a bow and put it in a closet because it's not resolved. Make sense, everybody?
I just had this happen now. Again, what we spoke about the other time when I spoke to you on the phone about this girl that I'm working with now, who is, what seems to both of us is chronic PTSD, and she's in a situation and she's not leaving it right now. And there's really nothing to do about it. When I actually did with her about 4 EMDR sessions, and she just felt like so lost and confused, and it just wasn't for her.
Yeah.
So we
So-
stopped. We stopped.
Right. So that's a good example of how when things are ongoing and present and not resolvable, EMDR is not a magic wand that can just resolve things that are present and ongoing. So you have to be careful to make sure that that you are presenting realistic expectations.
Can I
Next.
ask you about a specific case? But I know that you're going through the protocol, so maybe afterwards, if there's time, like,
If it's quick,
of how I
we
would-
can get it. If it's quick.
It's an older woman that has like, I mean, she has elderly parents that, and she has these like certain things with her mother that she feels like her mother put always something else, never put her other people before her, like whatever the school that she started was before her kids, like whatever. And also like she has this thing of like her mother like saying how, oh, I should have divorced your father like the right away, whatever it is, like. And now that both of them have dementia and different kinds of dementia, and her mother suddenly being more affectionate to her father, and instead of like liking what she sees, like the daughter, my client, is like, can't deal with it. Like, where were you like for 55 years? You were like the ITC age. And she's also treating the father like a child in a way. She's very controlling, and the client is not very into, like, she's talking about her feelings and she's actually facing more than she realizes it. Like, but when I try to specifically go, like, I haven't done EMDR on her, but this is my question of how to go about it.
Yeah. Well,
she doesn't want to face it. She's like, I can't go there yet. I can't do the feeling.
So this is a really good example of how you don't necessarily run away from EMDR because it's an ongoing trauma. You just have to make sure that if you do try it, that you let them know that they have to modify their expectations because this isn't going away. But what you can do is to try to help them to access their left brain, moving the emotion, desensitizing and try to move them to left brain so that she can try to reprocess what's going on. But it's very likely that the emotional charge of the situation may not necessarily be resolved because it keeps going on. Anyway, we're going to keep going on, Sharon.
Right, but that's why I asked, because it's trying to deal with the past. I wanted to deal with the past of how her
that's another way of looking at
relationship,
it.
but it's
Try to desensitize and reprocess
triggering
the
the
past, but
present.
not try not to have too many expectations of things necessarily changing because but actually in this case, maybe possibly if you can go back and try to desensitize it, I would try it and just make sure that
focusing on the past.
Okay. The next thing.
Can I ask a quick question? What about a case where a guy was once just going out from his home and he was just attacked and punched in the street and now gets nervous every time he has to go out? So on the one hand, that incident was a one-time deal, but he lives in an area, the inner city, that there is a lot of crime. So how does that fit together?
Well, first of all, you can definitely do EMDR for that trauma. That's an acute trauma, and clear that and because what do you think anybody is his negative cognition? Anyone want to guess?
Then it'll happen again.
He's powerless. He's thinking about himself that he's
powerless. How about this one? I'm not safe.
I'm not strong.
Not strong enough.
Safe. Going out is not safe. Right.
I'm not safe.
So you first want to desensitize and reprocess, and then it's a really good example, Ahuva, because this is not something that's just a one shot deal because it could happen again. Like some of the people that I've worked with in Crown Heights, who are subjected to a very unsafe environment. You can do EMDR on an incident that has happened. Some of these have experienced serious vicarious trauma, but it doesn't take away the anxiety of the fact that it could happen again.
Mm-hmm.
So you can only do so much. But I think you can definitely do the EMDR to desensitize the trauma and maybe make it a little more relative. I'm just because it happened once doesn't mean it's going to happen again. I can take precautions. I mean, these are some of the things that you can introduce as an interweave. because otherwise they can become agoraphobic. They don't want to leave their house because they're scared. Okay.
The interweave sounds very much to me like CBT. And
Yeah, there is that, but when you introduce the bilateral stimulation, you're actually able to desensitize the emotions, which you can't do with the standard CBT. Okay. Now, the third thing about type of person you should be careful with is one that is shut down and they cannot emote, whether it's dissociation or where they're just not able to emote. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try EMDR. I'm not saying that it's an exclusionary factor. It just means that you have to be careful to make sure that, again, expectations are clear. That if the emotions aren't there and they're disconnected from their emotions, just getting on the TheraTapper or doing any kind of bilateral stimulation can bring out the emotions, and it may not. And even if it does, then you have to be able to make sure that they understand that that these emotions are new experience, and you want to help them to be able to manage it, because they're probably shut down because they're afraid of emotion. So you want to be able to help to desensitize some of the anxiety that may be underlying expressing emotion. Okay.
But excuse me, so you just gave 3 types of people who?
Yeah, it's ongoing trauma, no trauma. Oh, I didn't mention no trauma.
Right. Thank you.
So thank you. That's why you're here, Valerie. Keep me in check. What I do without you. Anyway, so no trauma is very important, because sometimes they'll say, I want to try EMDR. I think it's pretty cool. Well, it's not something that you just do for the fun of it. It's a specific modality that is designed for trauma. There are other ways that EMDR can, which we're going to be discussing in the next training, which I've mentioned, for OCD, for phobias. It doesn't have to be necessarily from trauma. But if somebody's coming in because they've got they're a little not sure about how they want to do their career, they have garden variety issues that don't involve trauma. Trying to do EMDR with that could be a problem, because again, they have expectation of all this, because I heard this EMDR is really cool. But it's like, if you don't have, it's like asking for antibiotics, but you don't have an infection. Okay, thank you, Valerie. Okay, moving on. Okay, so the rationale for revised protocol. Okay, now we're on the protocols page. You all with me? Okay, very simple. Use of the TheraTapper instead of waving of the fingers. I can't tell you, since the last training, I've had a number of conversations with people who either were experiencing EMDR or trained at level 1, who had these waving of the fingers in front of their face, and that caused them to drop either practicing EMDR or they didn't want to do it anymore. They felt it was encroaching. They felt out of control. They felt powerless. And even the therapist said that it was exhausting for them. When I met the person from EMDR Israel and I told them about the TheraTapper, they were a little threatened by it. But I said, I think you should at least consider it, to try to, but, you can't change things that don't, like, how many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? Well, it depends on the extent to which the light bulb wants to change. If they don't want to change, you can't do anything about it. Next, under the trauma history. So you see that we added a schematic analysis, and I listed what you can do. You can ask patients to describe schemas. You can define schema as a cognitive template, or you can just mention the theme, like what themes come up for you that best describe or represent this trauma. And then you ask them to describe a schema for each trauma listed. And then after you've done it, ask for each trauma which schema is primary, the one that most resonates. And then you just add them up, you just tally up all of them, and then you give 2 points to the primary and 1 point to the other ones. And the one that has the highest score is the primary schema, and then you can, and the secondary would be 2 and 3. It's pretty simple. Questions or comments about that? Does that make sense? You want to look at it for a minute? Make sure you got, I kind of listed it out there. You can look at it later.
It says
Okay.
it on the protocol, like I can read it. I'm not really following
Right,
how you
it's
are.
right, it's right there. It's right there. Yeah, it's all listed out there. Okay. So also in terms of the preparation stage, we added to the several things to help them to feel safe if they feel overwhelmed, if they feel that they are becoming dysregulated by going back to the trauma. So we talked about explaining the concept of a safe place and demonstrate the butterfly hug, which you all know. And then you suggest to initiate slow, deep breathing that can help to de-escalate if they're dysregulated. You may want to take some slow, deep breaths if you feel the need to calm yourself. You want to prompt that. And then finally, for people that even for anybody, but especially those people who are OCD, performance-oriented, perfectionistic, and just to say, listen, look, whatever happens, happen without worrying if it's okay. This is not a performance. Try to emphasize that this is an organic process and that whatever happens is okay. Okay. Now, this next part is important. If you go down to Roman numeral 8. Okay, so when you ask for a negative cognition, quite often they'll come up with, I feel anxious, I'm angry. That's not what we're looking for. Those are emotions that will come up at the next stage. You want to emphasize that it's a belief, it's a cognition. And if they have a hard time with it, then give them an example. Like, I am unworthy, I'm not lovable, the world isn't safe, men aren't safe. You know, these are beliefs as opposed to emotions. As an aside, you may want to go back to those schemas, the primary and secondary schemas, because that may help you with, and will help in terms of forming a negative cognition. That's one of the reasons why I introduced the schematic analysis. You know, one of those schemas could be exactly that I don't matter, I don't count. So you all understand the difference between the cognition, the cognition of the PC and the emotion, the C and the emotions. Is that clear now? It's very, very important that you try to make sure that this is an actual cognition, because otherwise it'll get confusing. Okay. We do the negative emotions, the body scan. Okay. Roman numeral 9. Under the positive cognition. So they've already done the eye movements for a number of minutes. It's important that you let them know that they should take a break with their eye movements, but keep their eyes closed for the following reasons. A, it's really hard to really kind of access a new narrative while you're still doing your eyes back and forth. So you want them to stop their eye movements, but make sure that they keep their eyes closed because you want them to stay inside themselves. You don't want them to be distracted by, well, what's he thinking? What's she thinking? What is going on? You know, you want them to stay inside. So it's important that you explicitly tell them to take a break with the eye movements, but keep your eyes closed.
I have a client that isn't comfortable closing her eyes.
Okay, so if that's the case, you just go with where their comfort is.
Right.
Want to keep their eyes open, then you just do it. You don't try
Right.
to There's no question about that. Okay, Roman numeral 10. After they've been able to identify the positive cognition and they've evaluated the validity of the cognition from 0 to 10, you want them to do more eye movements, at least for 3 minutes, because that's the installation phase. You're really trying to install this new positive cognition. What you're really doing is building new neural pathways. And in the process, breaking down the old dysfunctional or maladaptive neural pathways. So, and sometimes, I guess I should write this down also. Ask them if they're ready to stop, because sometimes people need more. And it's also, you're sending a very clear message that, you're in charge. You let me know if you want to stop, if you want to keep going. So that's important. Sometimes people will say that their eyes are starting to hurt after a certain point. There's some people who can do this with ease. For some people, it's harder. Again, we were trying to be client-centered. They're still doing bilateral stimulation by holding onto the theratapper. If they feel like there's any kind of discomfort, which some people do, just say, it's okay, just let it go and just focus on the theratapper. Sometimes when people are doing these eye movements and it's not comfortable and they just do the theratapper, there's some internal movement that they feel, even though the eye muscles aren't moving. So you're still getting the bilateral stimulation. Okay, Roman numeral 14, debriefing. There's a lot of stuff here. So these are some of the things that I realized that need to really be, the debriefing piece is very, very important. So besides asking the questions like, what was this like for you? How does this change things for you? How would this help you moving forward? Which, by the way, is a very important prompt, because you want them to be able to prospectively apply this. Like, how does this change? Like, how does this change things for you? How does this, what does this represent in terms of your future experiences? You don't want to just keep it at, what happened and I'm okay with it. What does it mean for you in the future? You want them to, this is the way to open up new neural pathways as well. Okay, so these notes are very, very important. You may experience that the processing continues well after the session. Note whatever comes up by writing it down so we can explore it next time. So I'm realizing I did not add something here, which I will. You also want to let them know that they may experience a change in their dream pattern. Some people will have dreams that are more vivid, more clear, or more thematically clear, because you've unleashed the unconscious's processing. And quite often people start to experience dreams and you want them to note it. Also to let them know that they may experience a slight headache. You just want to let them know that it's normal, it's okay. If they want to, they can take some ibuprofen, because you're using eye muscles that do not, that aren't usually used as much, that's for sure. Because sometimes if you don't tell them they have a headache, they get worried that something's wrong. And then we talked about it last session, to feel free to contact. If you feel the need to reach out, let me know if you would like for me to check in with you. We had a whole discussion with that. Good. Okay. So now we go to day 2. There's just a little bit more. If you scroll down to G, relevant applications of EMDR. So we changed the weight management to healthy lifestyle. And it was a comment that was made by one of the trainees, which I thought makes sense, that you don't want to focus on losing weight. You really want to focus on a healthy lifestyle at a more macro level, which may include weight management, but it's also for people who, not just compulsive eaters, but emotional eaters, overeaters, and as part of an overall healthy lifestyle. EMDR can be used for people who are averse to exercise, to try to understand what has happened in the past that makes them so aversive, or what it represents that causes them to resist. And you can try to desensitize and reprocess that. You can also help them to be more in touch with the value of exercise in terms of the outcome, or the actual process itself, to try to install a new narrative that this could be liberating, it could release a lot of negative energy, whatever positives. You can ask them what positive things could be associated with exercise, because there's some people who don't exercise for reasons that are malleable, that are workable. And the last one is prospective EMDR, which I think is really, really important. Prospective EMDR is, I don't remember if I mentioned it. I know I did in the last session, but the traditional EMDR is to go back in time and to help heal traumas, and to help desensitize the emotions associated with the trauma and to reprocess it cognitively. Prospective EMDR is when a person anticipates a potential trauma and it's causing them a lot of anticipatory anxiety. So I'm going to give you an example. This is my famous example, which I am such a thrilling experience and victory. For those of you who had heard the story, it's worth listening to it again, right? So years and years ago, I was working with a woman. She was in her 40s, mid to late 40s. She was married to a physician who was kind of like a benevolent narcissist, kind of pathetic kind of person. And she was a very competent and well-respected person. And he was kind of like a kid in some ways. And she found out that he was having an affair with one of his nurses. And she was the type of person that she wasn't going to tolerate that. And she basically gave him an ultimatum, and he wasn't ready to give up the relationship, so she divorced him. And she was okay. She was okay. We got her through the divorce, and she was okay. And I hadn't heard from her for a little while. And then she calls me up in a panic that she found out her husband and his new wife was moving into the same complex that she was living in. It was kind of like a little gated neighborhood in Miami Beach. And she became, anyone want to guess what would come of that?
She didn't want to leave her house.
Which is called what? Anybody?
I'm sure she became agoraphobic.
She became agoraphobic. She wouldn't leave her house. She would use Instacart to shop, and she just wouldn't leave. She was afraid that she was run into them. So when we did the EMDR, her negative cognition was that I'm ashamed to see them, that they're gonna mock me. I don't remember all the other ones, but it was just all about these irrational negative cognitions. And of course, she was filled with anxiety. And as we started doing the EMDR, this is one session, by the way, it's all she needed. As she started going into her left brain, and she was really, I mean, the body scan was, she was on fire. Her body was, these were all 9s and 10s, as you can imagine. So as we got her starting moving with the bilateral stimulation, I asked her to imagine running into them on the street or something. And after not too long of a time, all of a sudden her face changed and she said, "Why am I worried about seeing them? He's the idiot that ruined our family and made a fool out of himself and nobody respects him. Why am I afraid of being ashamed? We kept on going with the eye movements. And after a period of time, she said, this is ridiculous. I have nothing to be ashamed of. And so what's the end of what's the end of the story? She called me, and that was the last thing. She was fine. She called me back, I don't remember how many weeks later, that she was in the Publix, which is the food market in Miami, in Florida, and she was turning the corner in the aisle, and there were her ex-husband and his lovely little wife. And she called me and she's giggling. She said, they saw me and they turned around and left the store. And she said, yes, victory. Best story, EMDR story I have. That's prospective EMDR. When you desensitize something that could happen or will happen that's causing a lot of anticipatory anxiety. It's a wonderful creative way of helping people to reprocess a potential trauma so that they can deal with it. Okay. So that's pretty much all the changes that I made in this protocol. I don't have, I'm going to be preparing for this next training quite a number of things that I've learned. I went through a training, an excellent training on complex PTSD, which is a whole new ball game. And there were some things I gleaned from it that doesn't just relate to complex PTSD. So I don't know how you're all feeling, but if any, I would strongly encourage you to come for the other training. Now, I think, is anybody, I don't think anybody who came to this training. There were several people who came to, Tova's here. Hello.
Yes.
Tova, can you give a testimony? Oh, and Nechama too. Both Tova and Nechama. Can you give a testimonial of how beneficial it was to go for the second training?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely reinforced what we had. It was helpful, very helpful.
It was worth the time. Yeah, it was.
Worth the time.
You also told me that you found it very helpful, right? You're very much muted.
Yes. It was very helpful. It was much more focused, much more, I don't know, it's just easier to transfer the skills. Things were much clearer.
Yeah. And the other people who came also felt that it was extremely worthwhile. So I strongly urge you to go for the second training, or that third day, which is November 18th. We're going to just be doing practicing. There's no charge for it. I just feel that that's my responsibility to help you along in terms of deepening your skills. But I think that if you come for the training, you'll have enough. We're going to be doing practice sessions then also. If you come for the training, you don't have to necessarily come for the third day, but you're more than welcome to do it. But to come for the second day the second time over, I think would be extremely helpful. Okay, questions or comments about anything we discussed today?
Just a technicality. I wasn't following over the computer. I was following over what I printed from what Susan sent in the email. And number one, sometimes I couldn't find where you were, but I was just listening anyways. But the Roman numerals, I realized on the first day, it like goes to 9, 10, and then it goes back to 8. I don't know, at least that's
All right, thank
what
you
I
for
have
pointing
here.
that out. Okay, I will.
Just as an example, and there's a few places where there's like a big space, like
Yeah.
as if you're supposed to write there or something. I'm not sure if it's missing something or it was just meant to be a place where something's supposed to be written. Like,
Well, the
what
next
types
time,
of people should be
Sharon,
carefully
the
considered
next
for
time I
EMDR?
do,
There's nothing underneath that.
Sharon,
Yeah.
the next time I do a revision, I'm going to send it to you first to proof it. So I will be, before
No
we do the
problem.
training, actually, the
You
truth is
can do that.
I was hoping to do that before today. I didn't get a chance, but I will go through this because I obviously did a lot of changes and sometimes the sequencing didn't follow. So I will prove it. And thank you for sharing that. But we have a few minutes. Any cases that you would like to bring up or any questions you have about what you're experiencing with EMDR? Let's use the time.
I just wanted to go back to when you were going through the protocol. There were times you'd mention a Roman numeral and you wouldn't necessarily mention the heading that went with it. So sometimes it was a little hard to follow. So be just more helpful, maybe the page is numbered, just more cues so that we're on the same page literally.
Okay, yeah, no, helpful. Any anything in terms of your practice? Let's talk about that.
I just wanted to say that I had gone to work with soldiers, and they were basically they were considered commandos. Anyway, that it just I don't understand exactly what that especially meant, but they happened to be all young, and this was just like their parting gift to the soldiers was to have a day of all kinds of treatments, and I was shockingly, pleasantly surprised that they really denied trauma. They said, there were many, many, many hard things that they experienced. I mean, they saw many people getting killed, many people wounded, and it was upsetting, was a lot to process. But it was like it wasn't disturbing their life, it wasn't disturbing their sleep, it wasn't all of those things. Really, what they were asking for, and what I did with a bunch of them, was teach them some meditative breathing. They wanted a tool to be able to calm themselves, and they were very, very grateful for that. They found that extremely helpful.
Nechama, you're bringing up a very interesting and important point. Two people can experience the exact same experience, and one will have full-blown PTSD, and the other one will have just kind of experienced it and move on. Any thoughts as to why? Why doesn't
But
everybody
in
get?
addition, I think a lot of these soldiers might be still in shock. Like, it takes time. Like, they're saying it takes more than a year, like
Right.
after October 7th, for people to have been starting to come forward.
So we're going to talk about that in a minute. Just ask the general question. Why do some people experience PTSD and others don't?
They're what happened to them earlier in life and stuff.
There's some people who, because of experiences they've had in life, that this becomes a re-traumatization, and they are much more likely to develop PTSD. What else? What other
They're
things?
not alone.
Sorry?
They're not alone. They're in a group.
Explain, Rafi. I'm not sure I understand.
One of the things about trauma is because we're alone, it's too much for us to deal with. If we're experiencing it as a group, then sometimes we're able to.
Shared experience can ameliorate the development of PTSD. Very good point. Anything else?
Yeah, I would also say in terms of coping, just their general coping skills in life, if everything is always everything is always extreme, or like they can't cope with, if people have difficulty coping, period, then they're going to have difficulty coping with trauma.
That's true.
And just to add to that, if I may, is also the support after trauma in a way, or even like the culture context of how they cope it.
Yeah. So yes.
What I found very interesting was they weren't denying that they weren't exposed to very upsetting things that are going to stay with them for the rest of their lives, because you don't go through, heavy duty battle for almost 2 full years without it becoming part of your soul. But they were saying that they were talking to each other about it, and they were, they were managing with it. They were like,
Yeah.
it was like very difficult, and I'm okay. And
So, yeah. So let's just talk about the Army experience. So there are a couple of factors that I think when you're dealing with soldiers. Number one is that for some people, actually, I want to say one more point in general. People are different constitutionally. There are some people that are just constitutionally more sensitive, more affected. Other people are more resilient. They're just constitutionally more resilient. The people that are constitutionally more sensitive are more likely to develop PTSD and experience these events as traumas. People who are by nature resilient will see there was a masa shahaya that happened that was really bad, but what's for dinner? They're just resilient. Now, in terms of soldiers, there's another dynamic that's going on, and I learned that when we went to the Army base. And this is not a conscious or deliberate intention, but when you're still in battle, I mean, we went to this Army base, Derry, which is right on the Gaza border, and there was bombardments going on while we were there. We had one or two therapists that needed EMDR, believe it or not. A lot of these guys were ready to go back into Gaza, that night. That night. They don't want to be able to acknowledge that they have PTSD because that represents weakness. They need to feel strong. They need to feel that they're ready for battle. They're not ready or willing or able to start talking about how this has affected them because they're still got to go in there. Maybe afterwards. And like Sharon said, maybe it'll take time. But that's why you have to be very attuned to where the client is at. They may not be ready. And it's okay. It's okay. We didn't push. And in some cases, in another situation where I was with, it took I think I mentioned there was one Nachshon Ben Ami Nadav that came in to see me, and it was an amazing, traumatic experience. And then he started telling other people. And then people who said, I don't have any trauma, all of a sudden came in to talk about what was going on. Some of them, by the way, it was not about their war experiences. It was about coming home, the reentry, which is one of the subjects we're going to be talking about at the conference. And that's a very important issue. A lot of people are coming back with serious issues trying to reintegrate back into their family. Okay, anything else? All right, well, I hope to see some of you. The conference, there's two things that are coming up in a few weeks, the EMDR training, and I hope you all consider coming. I think it's very important. And then the True Conference, which will be honoring Susan. So I hope that you guys will come. And also, please send out that invitation to your contact list. Try to get it out in terms of the community forum, especially. But any therapists that please send it out. It would mean a lot to Susan and me as well. We're both working very hard to put together a very special conference. So I hope to see you there as well. All right.
Are you talking about November 16th, 17th, and 18th? Is that
No, that's
what you're talking about?
That's the EMDR training, and the conference is November 25th.
I've just posted it in the group, and I've also posted the other day the application form. I know that you're in America, and at the moment that doesn't help you. But we will hopefully.
We are trying to do the Zoom. We're really hoping to make sure Zoom works.
Hopefully in the next couple of days we'll get feedback to see whether Zoom can be possible. But if not, the early bird is available now. So if you book in the next couple of days, you can get it at 200 shekel for a day instead of the 250 shekel. And believe me, we have an amazing array of speakers on an amazing array of different issues surrounding mental health.
You'll see the program. Susan, you can carry on and talk to them about it. I have to leave. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Susan, can you resend the thing about the 18th? I guess I signed up for the 25th, but not the
16th, 17th, and 18th. That's in Ramat Beit Shemesh. Yeah, I'll send you the EMDR. I'll send it out to you for that one.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'll put it in
and also about is it possible to get in for either one of those, like get in an order for us of TheraTappers, like
yeah, I think hopefully Dr. Goldwasser, when he goes back to the States, maybe he'll be able to organize that for us. I don't know how many he has here, but hopefully when he's going back soon, and then he's away until April, and then he's coming back in April.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, it is.
When is he leaving?
End of the month, I think. Close to the after the not long after the conference, I think he's leaving. Yeah.
Okay, and then is it okay? Because like I can only come like 1.5 days of the 16, 17.
Listen, I'll be honest with you, I can't stay for the full 3 days either, because I've got something on the last day. So but yeah, I think hopefully I'll be there on the first and the second day.
I want to ask one more question if possible. In reference to, because I went to the first conference that the first seminar, and then I didn't go to this latest one. The first one, we had massage therapists. Now, but then it seemed like there were issues about that. There's someone that's a massage therapist here that I was thinking that if she went, that she and I could work together.
I'll be honest with you, I can't comment. I know the ballpark has gone higher, okay? Because we've seen, and Dr. Goldwasser has experienced, that some people that have done the course have struggled because they don't have a therapeutic background.
Right, that's why I spoke to her about the fact that I think that if we did it together and she did the hands-on stuff, because I've already looked into it, would be too difficult for me at this point in my life to get a license to touch.
Right.
Okay. So
look, I that's a conversation to have with Dr. Goldwasser, but I do know that we have made some decisions about the qualifications of the people that we will be taking.
Absolutely.
Not everybody that's been on the course has been able to understand it because of their lack of trauma, of their lack of therapeutic background, and you do need a therapeutic background.
Absolutely.
You're talking about the EMDR training, right?
Pardon?
Yes.
You're talking about the EMDR training, right?
Yeah, we are. Not the conference. The conference is open during the day to mental health providers, and then we have an evening session as well, which is open to the general public. That's 100 shekel. And that's got some amazing speakers amongst that, like Rabbi Hanoch Teller, the author, and we have some other people, a survivor who plays the violin, and lots of things going on in that particular session, which should be really a different approach to trauma and resilience through a different way of healing. So it promises to be a really good day from start to finish.
I can take care of it now too.
It will just make it even more special if you can attend, and if you can send out the flyers. I'll have the new updated version. Well, I have the finished version, but there's some mistakes on it. So tomorrow, hopefully, we'll have the finished accurate version, and then I would ask all of you if you would very kindly share it with as many contacts as you have, because we want over 100 people there. So we would really appreciate your support with this. We've been planning this for almost a year now. I can't believe that we've been planning it for so long. But yeah. Oh wow. Okay. So yeah. So I've done. By the way, I've tried a new thing tonight. I've recorded it anyway on Zoom because Dr. Goldwasser wants these recording. But I've also recorded it on AI. So let's see what the notes are like, and I'll send the notes out to everybody. So hopefully, they may be very, very long, but you can pick and choose what you want to read from them.
Can we also get a recording of this?
Yes, I'll do the record. It won't be tonight that I can convert the recording over, but I will definitely get it sorted, and you will have the recording. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem. Okay. So thank you, everybody, and
thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Enjoy. Take care.
Take care. Okay. Bye.
Thank you.
Bev.
Thank you, Susan.
Bye-bye.
Bye.